What would you do if your fiancé and his family invited you to a celebratory dinner, only to then spring the entire bill on you? In today's story, the protagonist's choice is a masterclass in how to handle it. I, a 32-year-old woman named Sarah, had just gotten engaged to my fiancé, 37-year-old Michael. We didn't live together, as we were waiting until marriage, a decision rooted in his family's deeply conservative Christian beliefs. Despite their traditional views, they had always seemed like genuinely kind and affectionate people. New Year's Eve was approaching, and I had plans to spend it with Michael. However, he called me to say he was going out for a New Year's Eve dinner celebration with his parents. A little later, he called again, extending an invitation for me to join them. I was happy to accept, looking forward to ringing in the new year with my soon-to-be family. When I arrived at the upscale restaurant, Michael's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were already there. They welcomed me warmly, and soon, a lavish spread of dishes, desserts, and drinks was ordered. We celebrated, enjoying each other's company and the festive atmosphere. The evening was going wonderfully, that is, until it was time to pay the bill. As the waiter presented the check, I instinctively reached for my wallet, pulling it out of my bag. "We'll split the check between us," I offered, assuming it was the polite thing to do. Michael mumbled, "No, you don't have to. We invited you." His words were soft, almost hesitant, and a fleeting expression crossed his face that I couldn't quite decipher. But I insisted, feeling it was only right to contribute. Then, an uncomfortable silence descended upon the table. Michael and his parents stared at me, their eyes wide with an unreadable mixture of surprise and something else, a subtle unease. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice tinged with confusion. Mrs. Thompson spoke first, her voice a little strained. "Oh, dear, we didn't bring any money with us." Mr. Thompson quickly chimed in, echoing her sentiment. I was utterly shocked. My gaze darted to Michael. He looked down, avoiding my eyes, before admitting, I forgot my wallet at home too. And I didn't bring enough cash to cover even one round of drinks." A knot began to form in my stomach. Then, Mr. Thompson let out a nervous chuckle, attempting to lighten the increasingly heavy atmosphere. "All right, so I guess we should let the doctor pay," he quipped, a forced smile on his face. The comment hit me like a splash of cold water. I'm a doctor, and while I have a good salary, it doesn't mean I'm an endless ATM. I was taken aback. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice firm despite my internal turmoil. "But no, this is just so much money to spend on one dinner by myself, and I didn't think I was expected to pay the entire bill." The sheer audacity of the situation was starting to dawn on me. Michael, looking increasingly uncomfortable, urged me, "Sarah, just pay it, and I'll pay you back later." But I shook my head. "No," I stated. I knew Michael was currently between jobs. The amount on that bill would be a significant sum for him, one that he'd truly have to get a job to pay back. My frustration, which had been simmering beneath the surface, finally bubbled over. "I'm sorry, but this isn't the first time I've been put in this situation by you and your family," I told them, my voice rising slightly. "Where I'm expected to rescue them after they somehow forgot their wallets and expect others to pay hundreds for their extravagant dinner." The words hung in the air, heavy with accusation. I looked directly at them, making my resolve clear. "I'll only pay for what I had, and that's it." Michael and his parents were visibly shocked, their previous composure completely shattered, their faces contorted with a mixture of disbelief and indignation. They began to argue, their voices rising in volume, asserting that I had the means to pay and was acting as if they were strangers, not family. Their arguments felt hollow. However, how could someone go out to such a fancy restaurant, order so many dishes, desserts, and drinks, without bringing any money? Michael, his face pleading, begged me to just cover the bill and call it a night, but I refused. The argument grew heated, a tense standoff in the middle of a bustling New Year's Eve celebration. Finally, I'd had enough. I got up from the table and walked out of the restaurant, leaving them to deal with the consequences of their deception. That night, at 2 a.m., Michael called me, his voice laced with anger and accusation. He was basically yelling, declaring that I had ruined their New Year's Eve celebration and made his parents suffer because I refused to pay the entire bill. He accused me of acting selfishly after they had been gracious enough to invite me, How unfair it was for me to pay, I retorted, my own anger flaring. Even if I have a good salary, it doesn't mean I want to spend it all on a fancy dinner. He didn't reply directly to my point. Instead, he simply said he would pray that my parents will let this go and not resent me, implying that I had damaged the relationship with them. His words were a knife twist, a clear indication of where his loyalties lay. I hung up feeling awful, a wave of self-doubt washing over me. Maybe I should have just covered the bill instead of leaving. Was I the asshole for only paying for myself? This reveals Michael's greatest fatal flaw, his shocking lack of awareness and blatant disregard for the financial burden he continually attempted to impose on Sarah, ultimately sealing the fate of their relationship. One commenter astutely pointed out, they all conveniently left their wallets at home. It doesn't seem likely they forgot them at all, and they invited you with the expectation that you'll pay. You should rethink marrying this guy. He expected you to pay for an expensive meal, without your knowledge, and you've been put in this situation before by him. It seems he's using you for money, and that's extended to his family. And another wisely added, they weren't being gracious to invite you. It was a calculated move so that you'd end up in a position to pick up the entire bill, and your husband should be mortified that they did this. The story's core lesson is that true relationships are built on respect and fairness, not exploitation. What would you do if you found yourself in a similar situation, realizing your partner and their family were consistently taking advantage of your generosity?